Tonight's You and Your Money is brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Finance, RBC, Sun Oil Limited, the Ministry of Social Services and Community Development, the Central Bank, Summit Insurance, and the Abaco Business Outlook.
For many years, we've heard the call from various sectors of our community about the possibility of the introduction of a national development plan. That is the focus of our conversation this evening on You and Your Money. I'm Carlton Smith. And we're pleased to have in studio this evening the Director of Economic Development and Planning in the Office of the Prime Minister, Dr. Nicola Virgil-Rolle. Good evening. Welcome to You and Your Money.
Good evening.
The Minister of State for Investments in the Office of the Prime Minister, the Honourable Kailash Rolle. Good evening. Welcome to You and Your Money. I'm the Chairman of the Steering Committee for the National Development Plan, Mr. Felix Stubbs. Good evening. Welcome to You and Your Money.
Thank you.
So let's begin by talking about this National Development Plan project. What exactly is that? What are we trying to achieve through this project? Dr. Rolle?
Yes. Well, thank you, Carlton. I think for many years, if you've noted, we in the Bahamas have understood that there's a need for a plan to coordinate how we go about national development for our country. It's not just economic development, it's not just governance development, it's a comprehensive view on national development. And so in 2012, the Prime Minister approached the IDB with respect to getting assistance with developing a national development plan and more generally strengthening the Office of the Prime Minister. That evolved into a technical cooperation program in the amount of $450,000, which then led to the development of a program, a technical cooperation program to develop a national development plan. And so we began our work earlier this year with respect to a three-phased approach to this work. The first phase is a diagnostic leading to a full situational analysis of four key areas of our country: the economy, governance, social policy, and human capital, which deals with everything from education, healthcare, to crime and justice. And then the fourth element is looking at the environment, both the built environment or infrastructure and the natural environment. The second component looks at public consultation. So after you would have looked at the state of play of where you are now, we then begin this national discussion about where we want to go. So the visioning process, looking at national goals, strategies, and talking to the people. And so we've begun that process in the Family Islands and looking at New Providence conversations as well. The third phase is then when you get all of this information, you build an action plan, an actual strategy work that becomes your national development plan, which can then be filtered through to island plans, be filtered through to ministerial plans and community plans, and it draws on the work really that's already been done by many persons in our community. So we're not, as Minister Rolle have said many times, not beginning from ground zero, but looking at really how to comprehensively look at development in our country.
So Felix, I suspect that you are charged with the responsibility of managing this process of this three-phased project.
Yes, I am. Also to represent the Joe public, to kind of be the eyes and ears of the wider community to make sure that the technical folks stay on track, that we meet some milestones as we go along, and that we get as wide a dialogue as possible, because as Dr. Rolle says, it is a national program. We need to get everybody on board to make sure that this is successful.
Are we getting the involvement of the private sector Bahamas in this initiative?
The private sector is very involved. I'm very pleased with the response we're getting, particularly from Chamber of Commerce, from civil society. People understand that this is a critical need, that when you look around the world, countries start doing well, have national development plans, and they follow those plans regardless of politics or religion or whatever. And so if we're going to ensure that we are successful going forward, we got to know where we're going, and that's the reason why we have to have this plan.
Minister Rolle, as the Minister of State for Investments, you play a major role in this project. The government is leading this project. Government-led, private sector driven, is that a good way to describe it?
It is a good way to describe it. And I'll tell you, the role of the private sector, I think, goes beyond just driving it. They are co-leading it with the government. One of the things we wanted to do to ensure that this was sustainable and that it transcend government and as well as the political cycle was we appointed a steering committee made up of private sector actors led by Felix, the Chamber of Commerce, and all of the major NGOs. The Christian Council, they have been given invitations to participate, the Nature Conservancy, the Bahamas National Trust, civil society. And that was important to us because we want to ensure that an age-old problem that exists in the Bahamas is now dealt with, and it doesn't matter who is the government. We will have a plan that the country can develop by.
Is this a plan that, from the work you've done so far, that you would say the overwhelming majority of people who have been engaged are committed to ensuring that we implement? Are we getting the buy-in that the minister speaks about?
Well, Dr. Rowe can speak to that more intimately, but we've been doing some visits to the family islands, particularly at this point in time, looking at the state of the nation more or less. And when you see the enthusiasm that coming from the folks we've been talking to, and not only are they very enthusiastic, a lot of the times they're very emotional because there's this pent-up desire for people to be involved in the development of their country. They see the need, they feel the need, and now they're beginning to express the interest in that need.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Roll, are you seeing the buy-in?
Most definitely. I think that, we've been reaching out to, as I said, about hundreds of persons to have this discussion. And as we go through, I think the first knee-jerk reaction is, okay, so how is this going to be durable? How is this going to be lasting? So we have that conversation first about, how we mitigate the risks of this becoming something that sits on a shelf. And one of those ways is that we have this broad approach, these wide consultations. We're working from an evidence-based approach to make sure we tackle real issues, real problems that we diagnose, and have those discussions and have this wide approach. And so after we get over that, then I think we have this wide sharing that's very important, and people feel involved, and we, through our team, though it's small, we continue the dialogue with those persons.
So talk about this diagnostic analysis that you've done. Exactly what has that revealed?
Well, we've done this situational analysis, as I said, on 4 pillars that were of our work. So we looked at the economy. We looked at things that were driving the economy. So, of course, we look at our major industries. We've got tourism. We look at the fact that, how we fare with stopovers versus cruise versus other countries as well. We see that one of the major issues is that while stopovers cruise visitors, I should say, are peaking and driving the increase, we see this slowdown of stopover visitors. We see where we have been overtaken by a few of our competitor regional jurisdictions. And so we have to understand exactly what is driving that, be it product development, be it marketing, all of those things to make sure that we have a competitive product that is well priced to look at. We look at things like skill. So in our human and social capital, we go from the GLATs from grade 3, grade 6. We see a peaking at grade 3. We see the gender disparities that grow from that point and then open up by the time you get to BGCSEs. We look not only at the national averages for things like BGCSEs, but we look at what's happening at the tails. Are we seeing more A's and B's? Are we seeing more D's, E's, G's, and F's? So things like that are critical in terms of having solutions that are designed to address real problems. And so we take it from an economic, sort of scientific approach, a social science-based approach in our work versus anecdotal, research to really get at the core issues. And so we know that skills is going to be important for addressing the challenges of the country. We know that productivity is going to be important. We know that governance reforms are going to be important so that we have well and effective governance. And so we try to get at those core issues through our work, and we present what we call the good, the bad, and the ugly in our State of the Nation report, which will be released in a few months for the public to digest on and really have that information to begin the national conversation. This
is You and Your Money. We're talking National Development Plan this evening with representatives from the National Development Plan, the Minister of State for Investments, the Honorable Kailash Roll, the Director of Economic and Planning in the Office of the Prime Minister, Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll, and also the Steering Committee Chairman, Mr. Felix Stubbs. We'll be back in a moment.
Tonight's You and Your Money is brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Finance, RBC, Sun Oil Limited, the Ministry of Social Services and Community Development, the Central Bank, Summit Insurance, and the Abaco Business Outlook.
Welcome back to You and Your Money. I'm Carlton Smith. We're talking National Development Plan. Diagnostics, they're expecting a report very shortly, and what you would have found as a result of your analysis. The involvement of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce, one of the major institutions in this country that represents the private sector. How significant are they in this whole process of developing this plan, and how are you involving them in the process?
Well, it's significant because if we're going to grow the economy of the Bahamas, the private sector has to be involved with that planning. The involvement primarily has come from the chairman, Mr. Godwin Bowe, who has been Herculean in terms of his support for the work we do. Sometimes I wonder whether he has a private job because he's spending so much time with us. and so he understands the need. The chamber generally understands the need. We have to make sure we get as many of not just large businesses, but small businesses engaged, entrepreneurial folks are engaged, because those are the persons who need to make sure they put their input in terms of what should the Bahamas look like, what kind of platform should we be putting in place to make sure they have the opportunity to be successful businessmen and women. And so it is critical that they're involved.
The significance of the College of the Bahamas. They also are a major player. Academia, as you mentioned, Dr. Roll, is extremely important in this process of getting to the point of understanding exactly what it is we want the Bahamas to attempt to achieve in the short, medium, and long term.
Certainly. We had the College of the Bahamas with us throughout the whole process. And so at the beginning, as we began our diagnostic work, we had asked the College of the Bahamas to provide us with research primers on a number of issues dealing from social policy, crime, and they provided some research primers that helped to inform the situational analysis that we have done. They've been with us as co-chair or deputy chair of the steering committee. They've involved in terms of helping us plan all of our events. We have had Transforming Government, which is a workshop that we had a few months ago, Transforming Skills, and they're working with us now in our latest endeavor, along with the Chamber of Commerce, for Transforming the Economy, a workshop that will be held October 14th and 15th with the College of the Bahamas in order to look at strategizing the future of the Bahamian economy.
Minister Roll, there are other institutions to be engaged as well. The church, the labor movement,
Yes.
as well as the political organizations. How do you get all of these other agencies on board? How do you get them to understand the value, the importance of this initiative?
Well, we continue to reach out to them. We share information with them. They participate in some of the seminars and some of the RACE meetings, the Rapid Assessment Sector Expert meetings, just to ensure that everybody understands that this is not a government plan. This is a plan that the country has to be involved in. Some people have been actively involved and some haven't been as involved as they should be. But nonetheless, you know, we made a decision that this is too important to not move forward and move forward in the best interest of the country. And we hope once we get to the next phase that more input would be provided, particularly from the political entities. And we were having an off-air conversation about the political entities not supporting this as much as they should, because obviously it's not their plan. And yeah, as politics go, sometimes you don't get the best decision-making process if it doesn't have you out front. And we've made an attempt to engage the FNM, we've made an attempt to engage the DNA, but we've built a structure that engages all of the major entities, the Chamber of Commerce, the College of the Bahamas, who will, out of this process, develop a very strong research institution that governments can go to for information. It will be sustainable. And any government or any political party that ignores the work and the input that has gone into this, they do it at their peril. and that includes the PLP, FNM, or DNA. A lot of work has been done, a lot of good work, and the participation level of civil society, the College of the Bahamas, the Chamber of Commerce, the BNT, the Nature Conservancy, and you have people in a room that ordinarily you will not see in a room collaborating on an effort. And that's why I was very happy. We had a meeting recently with civil society, and when they walked out of that room, I didn't participate in that meeting, but when they walked out of that room, one by one, they were heralding what we were doing, and they thought it was overdue, and they realized that this is the most important initiative that the country can undertake at this particular time.
Before we talk about Family Island development and developments in New Providence, how do you engage the general public to be a part of this discussion?
Yeah, and that's the important key. And Minister spoke just now about making sure sorry, that the political parties be engaged. My position is we will give them the information, and if they do engage, they do engage at their own risk. We need to engage the general public. As long as we can get the general public to understand what we're doing and supporting this, politicians will come running, because that's who their masters are. And they're not going to take a position of standing on the side when everybody in the Bahamas says we need a plan. And so our effort must be to ensure that we especially educate the public, make sure they understand the need, how they can play a part, and once we get them on board sufficiently, I think everything else will fall in place.
We're going to take a look at Family Island development. When we continue tonight on You and Your Money, we're talking the National Development Plan. We'll be back in a moment.
Tonight's You and Your Money is brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism, the Ministry of Finance, RBC, Sun Oil Limited, the Ministry of Social Services and Community Development, the Central Bank, Summit Insurance, and the Abaco Business Outlook.
Welcome back to You and Your Money. I'm Carlton Smith. We're talking the National Development Plan with representatives from the various areas responsible for the development of this particular project. And so let's look at Family Island development. When we talk about a national development plan with an archipelagic nation like the Bahamas, there's no one size fits all. You must look individually at each Family Island. How are you approaching the Family Island component of this plan?
Well, Carlton, we have begun the work in the Family Islands to truly understand the peculiarities, the differences, the strengths, the weaknesses of all of our Family Islands. We've done about 5 islands so far in this process. We've got all of the major ones to go. And what this has afforded me and my team, really, it's been an awesome experience to really truly understand the greatness of our country, the length and breadth of our country. So we have been through Grand Bahama, and my team just came back from Managua. And what you do see when you have these discussions with the people, and as Chairman Stubbs mentioned, this is truly a people's plan. You begin to understand what will affect the day-to-day lives of people, be it in 8 Mile Rock or in West End, the need to have freestanding ATM machines and better protection of the coastal areas for conchs and undersized crawfish fishing. To Inagua, the need for greater transportation links in order for them to have fresh foods, fresh greens. Be it in, when you see the tremendous work that's happening in Andros, in North Andros in particular, with agriculture, and understanding that the need for greater links between North Andros, Mangrove Key, and South Andros, transportation links, so that the great produce that's happening in North Andros can get to Mangrove Key and can get to South Andros. And so doing the face-to-face sort of on-the-ground field work that we're engaged in, and we always go with the Chamber of Commerce and the College of the Bahamas with us. We work through the island administrators and the town and district councils as well to organize our meetings, to really get at the heart of the issues affecting. So we're preparing a catalog based on our 4 pillars of all of the issues based on a community by community basis, which we can use to target tangible projects, be it direct government involvement, public partnerships, or private enterprises, in order to improve the lives of people and assist with that coordination.
So essentially what we're looking at, Felix, are development plans within a development plan.
Exactly. And if you look at what some of the Family Islands are doing, some of them already have plans, although at the embryonic stage. We just need to work with them to ensure that they know what they need for their islands. We just need to help them with structuring their plans so that when we roll them into a national plan, there's synergy.
Mm-hmm. And Minister, the government facilitating this national development plan and looking at the family islands, what does the government intend to be the key components of this plan?
Well, we have to put the execution framework in place. You know, at the end of the day, all of this work will go to naught if you don't have an institution developed, you don't have it codified in law to ensure that it's implemented and it's executed and it's managed to the successful benefit of all Bahamians. Felix was talking about the work on individual plans for the family islands. One Eleuthera did a lot of work recently, and they developed a plan for Eleuthera. So we're not starting from ground zero. We're integrating everything that has been done into this one plan that will be managed by a mechanism that is sustainable, that ensures that everything that we identify, every strategy that we come up with is implemented long-term for the benefit of Bahamians.
Dr. Roll, you talked about Nassau specifically and a plan for a sustainable approach to how we develop Nassau. And you have something on the drawing board ready to launch now.
Yes, we have just, we got an approval for a $1.1 million grant, again from the IDB, to launch a sustainable Nassau development plan. It's part of an IDB process of sustainable cities that they've done in about 50 cities now, and Nassau has been the latest city chosen for this work. And what we do is we work with IDB to develop a sustainable, so something where it's not just for today, but it provides for the future of our children for tomorrow as well, a city plan for Nassau. And so we're taking the widest possible context to Nassau, looking at beyond the technical borders of Nassau to include as much as possible of New Providence, so that we can look at issues of transportation, congestion, issues of green spaces and parks, issues of job development, and the important issues of crime, urbanization. All of those issues need to be considered in a sustainable way, again drawing on work that's been done through be it the Downtown Nassau Partnership, the wonderful work that's happening with Historic Charlestown, and then also we have urban renewal and all the programs through all of the smaller NGOs that are working in those communities to ensure that we can develop a coordinated, sustainable master plan for Nassau.
And Felix, when can we expect the National Development Plan document to be completed?
Well, Dr. Roll and her folks are busy now putting that document together. She likes to give a deadline. So I don't want to work with deadlines. I prefer to work with milestones, because this work is too important for us to start putting pressure on ourselves to say this is a deadline we need to work on. My goal is when the work is ready to be presented, we present it. Now that could be maybe as early as 2 months from now. But the fact is we want to make sure when we come to the public with the work that we've done so far, they will be impressed. They will get on board very quickly, and it will make our jobs a lot easier moving forward.
And finally, Minister.
Well, let me just add to that also. The work is too important to put a time limit on it. Some countries took 10 years to do their national development plan, and we're trying to fast track ours because a lot of work has been done previously, but we will make sure that the work is quality work. And we've reached milestones and we've completed documents, and when we review it, we look at other areas that we may be able to add to because more information becomes available.
We have to end it there. Thank you all very much for being a part of You and Your Money. We're fresh out of time. Hopefully we will have another platform where we can have a more extensive conversation about this very important issue, a national development plan. I want to thank Dr. Nicola Virgil Roll, the Honorable Kalis Roll, and Felix Stubbs for being a part of the show tonight.
Thank you so much.
That does it for this edition of You and Your Money. For the entire team, I'm Carlton Smith.